I still remember the moment I first saw the message. It was late that night, around 2 weeks ago, and I was just mindlessly scrolling through my phone, trying to wind down after a long day. My wife, Lisa, was asleep next to me, her breathing even, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Usually she's a pretty transparent person. If she's working late, she lets me know. But recently, she'd been dodging certain questions, giving vague answers, and I'd started noticing little things that didn't add up. That night, I noticed a weird notification pop up on her phone screen. It wasn't even a message from a person, just some notification about a hotel booking. It was odd because she'd been claiming she was stuck at the office, working late on a project. I checked her schedule, and she insisted she was at her desk till well past the time she told me. So my curiosity got the better of me. I nudged her awake just enough to ask, "Who's booking hotels in the middle of the night?" She sat up quickly, her eyes wide. "It's nothing," she said too quickly. "Just a conference, you know. How those things are." That was her usual line, but I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. I asked her to show me the confirmation email, and she hesitated for a second. When she finally did, I saw the name of a hotel I'd never heard of, one near the city center, not far from her office, but definitely not where she'd said she was. And then I saw the name of her boss, Mr. Carter, pop up on the email. My stomach dropped. That night I didn't sleep much. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I wanted to believe she was innocent, but the evidence was right there. The hotel, the timing, the boss's name, all of it pointed to something else entirely. Still, I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I kept the information to myself, trying to decide what to do next. Over the next few days, I played it cool, watching her behavior. She was more anxious, fidgeting whenever I looked at her, and she'd become oddly defensive when I asked about her whereabouts. Every time I pressed, she'd give some vague excuse about client meetings or work emergencies. But her eyes would dart around like a thief caught red-handed. I knew then I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had enough evidence, and I needed to find out everything before making my move. Then last weekend I got a tip. A friend at work, someone I trust, mentioned that they saw Lisa at that same hotel. It wasn't just a coincidence. I felt my blood boil. How could she lie so blatantly? How could she look me in the eye and say she was working late, knowing she was sneaking around with her boss? The more I thought about it, the more I realized that her whole story was a lie, and I had been blind to the signs for months. Now I'm sitting here, reeling, planning my next steps. It's not just about catching her in the act anymore. She's crossed a line. It's about how I handle this, how I confront her, and what I do to finally take control of the situation. I want her to see that I'm not the fool she thought I was. That's where I am right now, searching for the right way to strike back, to make her regret every second she thought she could get away with it. And honestly, I feel sick. Not just because I was betrayed, but because I'm furious, furious at her, furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. I thought I knew her, but now I realize I was just fooling myself. She's been lying to my face for months, maybe longer, and I don't plan on letting her walk away with it. The worst part, I know this isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about reclaiming my dignity and making sure she understands that there are consequences for betrayal. I've started sketching out a plan, one that will hit her where it hurts without crossing the line into something criminal or destructive. But I won't lie, thinking about her with him still makes my fists clench. I need to be careful, calculated. I need to show her that I know everything. Once I do, there's no going back. I've been sitting with this rage for days now, trying to keep my head cool while figuring out how to turn this disaster into something I can control. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I couldn't just confront her blind and angry. That would be a disaster. She'd spin it, deny everything, and I'd end up looking like the crazy husband. No, I needed a plan, something precise. First, I decided I had to gather concrete proof. I got a little help from a friend at work, someone I trust who's good with tech. Together, we installed a remote camera in my house, hidden behind a bookshelf. It's not overt. I just wanted to catch her in the act if she tried to sneak around again. It's not about spying for its own sake, but I refused to be made a fool of. I needed to see her face, her reactions, her lies in real time. In the meantime, I started paying close attention to her phone, her habits. She's a terrible liar when caught off guard, and I wanted her to slip up. The thing is, I wasn't just hunting for her to confess, though that's what I secretly want. This is about getting enough evidence to make her realize I'm not stupid, not blind, and not going to be played. One evening, I finally got my chance. She was acting edgy, more nervous than usual. She spilled her coffee on her shirt while rushing around, dropping her purse and knocking over a glass of water. I saw her fall into a nervous tic. Her eyes kept darting to her phone, then away. I kept my cool, asked her about her day like I didn't know, pretending I was just interested. Later that night, I checked her phone again. I didn't look through everything, just enough to see if she was still texting him or planning something. Sure enough, there was a message from him, a simple "looking forward to tonight. Can't wait to see you." That was the moment I knew I had enough. I printed out everything, saved screenshots, and started planning my next move. Her schedule was becoming my blueprint. I watched her leave early one morning, heading out with her purse, looking over her shoulder. I followed her from a distance, just enough to confirm she went to the hotel she booked. It's a cheap place, nothing fancy, but it's where she's been sneaking off to. When she returned, she looked exhausted but oddly satisfied. I felt my stomach turn with a mixture of rage and a strange feeling of victory. She thought she was clever, but I was one step ahead. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about her lying, sneaking around, the scent of her perfume lingering on her clothes when she returned. I wanted to scream, but I kept my composure. Instead, I sat at my desk and drafted out my plan. I wasn't just going to storm into that hotel or confront her outright. No, I wanted her to see me as the one in control, the one who knew everything. I decided I'd arrange a meeting, get her alone, and then reveal everything I knew. I'd show her the proof, make her realize that her carefully constructed lies aren't going to save her. That's when she'll understand I'm not some naive fool anymore. I want her to feel the full weight of betrayal, without crossing a line that would make me guilty. I want her to see that I'm serious, that I'm no longer going to be a victim of her deception. I also thought about how I'd handle her once she's confronted. I want her to understand she's lost everything: her marriage, her respect, her comfort. I don't plan on screaming. I'll stay calm, maybe even cold, and let her feel the damage she's done. The best revenge isn't just exposing her, it's making her realize she's lost her footing, that she's no longer in control. Right now, I'm just waiting for the perfect moment. I've set the trap, I've got the evidence, and I've got my resolve. I don't think I'll be able to sleep tonight, but that's okay. I'll be ready. And when I finally face her, she'll know I'm no longer the husband she thought she could betray without consequences. That's the part that scares her most, knowing I've finally caught her and I'm about to make her pay for it. The day of the confrontation finally arrived, and I felt like I was walking around with a clenched jaw. Everything had fallen into place, proof in hand, plan laid out, and a clear idea of what I was going to say. I told myself I wouldn't lose my temper, that I'd stay in control. But inside, my stomach was churning, a mixture of adrenaline, anger, and that sick feeling that comes with betrayal. She had no idea I knew everything. I arranged to meet her at a quiet cafe nearby, one that she liked because it was cozy but not too public. I wanted her to think I was just going to talk, maybe even try to patch things up. That's what she'd expect. But I wasn't planning on that. This was about making her face her lie, face me, and admit what she'd done. When she arrived, I saw her walk in, her face tense, eyes darting around like she was expecting something. The smell of her perfume hit me hard, floral, sweet, but with a hint of guilt I was sure she couldn't hide now. She sat across from me, her hands trembling slightly as she sipped her coffee. I looked her in the eye and reached into my bag, pulling out the printed screenshots and the hotel receipts I'd collected. "I think we need to talk," I said softly but firmly, sliding the evidence across the table. "Tell me what's really going on." Her face went pale. She looked at the papers, her lips trembling. "No," I interrupted, voice steady but cold. "Don't lie anymore. I've seen the messages, the reservations, the hotel. I followed you last weekend. You've been sneaking off to see him, haven't you?" She swallowed hard, trying to find words, but finally nodded. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "It was just work, a mistake. It was a stupid mistake, and I regret it." I felt my fists tighten on my lap. A mistake, that's all you have to say after sneaking around behind my back. You lied about working late and you've been lying about us. How long has this been going on? She looked down, tears welling in her eyes. Since the retreat, it started there. I swear I didn't mean for it to go this far. I clenched my jaw so tightly it hurt. You swear? That's convenient. You think a sorry will fix this. You don't get to just apologize and pretend it didn't happen, not after you betrayed me like this. Her voice broke. I was lonely, stressed, and it was just what? An affair with your boss, sneaking out at night, lying to my face. I shook my head, trying to keep my voice from cracking. You've ruined everything, our wedding, our trust, everything we built. And for what? A few moments of excitement. She looked up, her eyes pleading. Please, I love you. It was a mistake. I swear I never wanted to hurt you. I was going to tell you, I just didn't know how. I felt the rage boiling over, but I forced myself to stay calm. You should have told me before you cheated, before you let him into our lives. I want you to understand I've been betrayed in a way I never thought possible, and I've decided that this isn't a quick fix. I want to end this completely. She looked like she was about to say something, but I cut her off. There's no going back from this. I've already made my decision, and I'm going to make sure you see what you've lost. I reached into my bag and pulled out something I'd prepared, an envelope with the evidence, a few photos I took discreetly just a few days ago. Here, I said, sliding it across the table. This is everything. Take a good look at it. Think about what you've done and what it means for us. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. I saw her eyes flick over the images, her sneaking into that hotel, her with him, the fake smiles, the hurried goodbyes. I knew then that she saw it all. That's when I stood up, feeling my heart pounding. This is over, I said, voice low but firm. I want the keys to the apartment, the wedding rings, everything. I don't want to see you again unless it's to sign the divorce papers. She looked shell-shocked, tears streaming down her face. Please don't do this. I love you. I'll do anything. No, I cut her off. You lost your chance. You betrayed me, and I'm done pretending that everything's okay. Goodbye, Lisa. I left the table feeling that sick mix of relief and emptiness. I knew I'd made the right choice. I'd face the fallout later, but for now I had to get out of there, away from the woman who had shattered everything I believed in. As I walked away, I realized the real work was just beginning, but at least now I had clarity. I was done being a victim. It was time to reclaim my life and move on from the betrayal. The moment I got back home, I knew I had to act fast. My mind was a whirlwind, racing, planning, calculating what to do next. I'd handed her the evidence, told her to gather her things, and made it clear I wanted no contact until she signed the divorce papers. Still, the aftermath felt surreal, like I was walking through a fog of anger and relief all at once. I didn't want her to think she could just walk away and everything would be fine. No way. I needed her to feel the weight of what she'd done, to understand that her betrayal was going to cost her everything she valued. I also knew that I couldn't just sit back and wait for her to leave. I had to ensure she knew I was serious. That night, while she was packing, I meticulously went through all the evidence again, making sure I had everything documented. I wanted to be ready for any twist. She might try to deny, plead, or even destroy some of the proof. I was prepared for all of it. I also sent a message to her boss, Mr. Carter, with a simple, direct statement. I knew what had happened, and I'd be informing HR in the morning. That was my way of ensuring he'd face some consequences, too. In the early hours, I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling like I was finally waking up from a nightmare I'd been living for months. My palms were sweaty, my stomach still clenched from everything. I kept replaying her look of guilt, her tears, and her plea for forgiveness. It didn't matter anymore. She'd chosen her path, and I was just cleaning up the wreckage. The next day, I went straight to HR with my evidence. I wanted to be clear and straightforward. I handed over the screenshots, hotel receipts, and the texts from her phone. I told them she'd been having an affair with her boss during a company retreat, and I wanted action taken. I knew they would investigate, and I wanted to make sure they understood I had concrete proof. I wasn't just making baseless accusations. While I was there, I could see the shock and concern on the HR manager's face. She took my information carefully, promising to look into it and keep me updated. I left feeling a little lighter, knowing I'd done everything I could to hold her accountable. At the same time, I could feel the anger simmering just beneath the surface, ready to burst if I wasn't careful. Back at home, Lisa was technically still, there packing her things in silence. She avoided my gaze, her face pale and splotchy from crying. I didn't say much. What was there to say? I'd already told her I wanted her gone. It wasn't about rage anymore. It was about making her see that her lies had consequences. When she finally looked up, her voice trembling, she asked, "What are you going to do now?" I paused, feeling the cold steel of purpose settle over me. "I'm going to let HR handle this, and I'm filing for divorce. I want my life back, and I want you to remember that betrayal has a price." She nodded weakly, tears still slipping down her cheeks. I handed her the divorce papers I'd prepared, making sure they were signed and ready to go. I didn't want to drag this out. I wanted her out of my life, quick and clean. As she signed the papers, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with bitter disappointment. I'd lost the woman I thought I knew, and I'd been betrayed in ways I never imagined. But I also knew I was finally free. No more lies, no more secrets. I was reclaiming my dignity, even if it hurt like hell. Walking out of that house with the keys in my hand, I realized something. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about finally standing up for myself, about refusing to be the victim of her betrayal. From now on, I'd be the one in control. And that, I realized, was the real victory. The days that followed were a whirlwind. The divorce was finalized quickly. She signed the papers, her eyes red but resigned. I handed her the keys, told her to leave, and watched as she packed her last belongings into a box. The house suddenly felt enormous and hollow without her presence. There was a strange emptiness, like I'd lost something I'd never really had, but also a strange sense of relief that I finally took control. I kept my distance from her after she moved out. I didn't want to get into a confrontation, didn't want to give her any false hope I might change my mind. But inside, I felt the burn of betrayal still smoldering. Every time I saw her face in my mind, I felt a surge of hostility. Yet I knew I had to stay composed. This was only the beginning. I also took steps to protect myself. I changed all my passwords, disconnected from her social media accounts, and blocked her number. I didn't want her to have any way to contact me, not unless it was about the divorce. I didn't want any more lies. I needed this to be over, completely and definitively. One thing I kept thinking about was Mr. Carter. I'd sent that message to HR, sure, but I also wanted him to understand that I was watching. So I started gathering more evidence, screenshots of their conversations, photos I'd taken when I followed her, and even some of her belongings I kept as reminders. I wasn't planning to do anything reckless, but I wanted him to realize I wasn't going to stay silent forever. That evening, I sat alone on my porch drinking a beer, finally allowing myself to breathe. The cool air brushed against my skin, and I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and empowerment. I had taken everything back, but I knew the scars would stay with me. Betrayal like this doesn't leave you untouched. It changes you, makes you more guarded, more cautious. Still, I was proud of what I'd done. I'd faced her, confronted her, and cut her out of my life. Out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. I hesitated, then looked at the screen. It was a message from her, but I didn't open it. I knew what it was. Probably an apology, maybe a plea to talk. I didn't need to hear her anymore. I knew what she was capable of, lying, sneaking, betraying, and I refused to let her pull me back into that mess. Instead, I decided to make a clean break. I packed up some of the evidence I had, put it all in a folder, and took it to a local lawyer I'd trusted for years. I wanted to keep it safe, just in case she or her boss tried to come back and deny everything. I also wanted to have a record if I needed to take further legal action. While I was there, the lawyer looked over everything, shook his head slowly, and said, "You did the right thing. This isn't just about infidelity, it's about breach of trust, and you've got solid proof. If she tries to contest the divorce or anything else, we're prepared." That conversation made me realize I'd done what I needed to do. I protected myself, my reputation, and my dignity. No more waiting, no more second guessing. I'd set the pieces in motion to move forward. Later that night, I sat alone again, feeling a strange sense of finality. The house was empty. The betrayal was out in the open, and the past was finally laid to rest. I knew I'd face some sleepless nights, probably more heartbreak and anger, but I also knew I was stronger than I'd thought. I'd taken back my life piece by piece, even if it hurt like hell. That's when I realized that revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about reclaiming your power, about making a stand when everything else seems to be falling apart. And even though I'm scarred, I also feel more alive, more aware of what I deserve. I'd built myself a new foundation, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me again. Looking back now, I realized that the whole ordeal changed me more than I expected. I used to think I was straightforward, trusting, maybe a little naive, but betrayal like that hits you deep. I thought I'd be consumed by anger, maybe even revenge, but what I found was a kind of clarity. It's like I had to hit rock bottom to see what truly mattered. The first thing I did after everything settled was to cut all ties with the past. I handed over the evidence to my lawyer, signed the divorce papers, and moved out on my own. I bought a small apartment nearby, just enough space to breathe without reminders of her everywhere. It's quiet now, but it's mine, and that felt like the first real step towards healing. I don't see her anymore. No calls, no texts. I blocked her number and her social media accounts. Honestly, I don't miss the drama or the lies. What I do miss is the trust, something I thought was unbreakable. Now I know better. People can surprise you in the worst ways. That's a lesson I won't forget. Every day I remind myself that I took control of my life back. I wasn't going to let her or anyone else diminish my worth. I learned to stand up for myself, even when it was messy and painful. The truth is, I've become more cautious, but also stronger. I don't rush into trusting people anymore, but I'm more aware of what I deserve. Looking at the whole situation, I realize I've gained something valuable: respect for myself. I no longer accept lies or betrayal, no matter how tempting or familiar they seem. I've set boundaries and I refuse to cross them for anyone. That's what this whole mess has taught me: the importance of self-respect and honesty. Of course, I still feel the sting of everything that happened. There are nights I lie awake reliving the betrayal, feeling that same sickening knot in my stomach. But those moments are fewer now. They're replaced with a quiet confidence, knowing I did what I had to do, that I didn't stay silent or accept her lies. And to everyone out there who's been betrayed, know that it's okay to feel broken at first. It's okay to be angry, to want revenge, to be lost. But I promise you can rebuild. You can reclaim your life piece by piece. Trust me, the pain eventually turns into strength if you let it. So here I am, finally at the other side. I've handed over the keys, signed the papers, and closed that chapter. I walk forward now, a little wiser, a lot more cautious, but finally free. And honestly, that's the best revenge of all: moving on and proving to yourself that you're better off without the lies. I hope my story helps someone out there. Betrayal hurts, but it doesn't have to define you. Stand tall, protect your heart, and never let anyone take away your dignity. Because, in the end, your happiness depends on your own strength, not theirs.